Gone are the days of formal etiquette. So what are you supposed to do in the countless situations of daily life that assail you? Including when you are on vacation, as we are. Welcome to No Etiquette, a podcast where we approach etiquette questions in a nonsense fashion. I am one of your hosts, Vivian Lee, and with me in Stockholm is my best friend, Sophia Bose. How are you doing, Sophia?
Hi, Vivian. How am I doing? Oh, I think I usually ask you this question.
Yeah, we're a little off script.
Yeah, I thought you didn't like this question.
I hate this question.
Okay. Well, how am I?
We've spent a lot of time together.
So much time together. I am very good. Just took a shower. I brushed my teeth. We're sitting on a windowsill of the hotel room of ours that we have, which is kind of a magical hotel room because it is 2 hotel rooms in one.
Yeah. On your advice, we tried a boutique hotel in Gamlestan, the old city district, and they gave us a room, and they said, it's a little, what was the word they used? Like, this is like a little unusual or something like that. You see if you like it for one night, and if not, we can switch you. And what we have is like a little room downstairs and a bathroom, and a spiraling staircase, not exactly, but like a staircase that goes around a corner and comes up to like a little loft thing with like a second room with just enough space for basically a bed. But it's great. We're having a great time. We're still on vacation. We can still stay. We're really getting along very well, despite many days together.
I think 8, right?
Better than ever. Yeah, we're actually getting along better than ever in 10 plus years of friendship, I think. And we are here delighted to bring you another episode in which we answer the etiquette question: how and when do you override a friend's course of action, particularly on vacation? Because friend vacations are a whole thing, right?
They're a whole thing. I have actually never taken one before this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, even like traveling with friends, right?
Yeah.
We did like conferences.
We did 3.
Even you and I, actually, a long time ago, went to a peculiar it was a good conference, but it was a peculiar trip because it was a little last minute. We fed more people in than our accommodation initially was. Anyway, it was a whole thing. We had a trip that ended well. But traveling with friends. You've never traveled with a friend?
Like, not a vacation.
Not a vacation? Just like writing conference travel.
Just writing conference, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't done too many. This has been the best one by far. I'm not just saying it because you're right here.
Really?
It really has. It really has. But it does come up on a trip especially. And vacations are it's almost like going to IKEA, where there's highs and there's lows, and you fight with your loved ones, is what happens on a vacation, because you're making decisions constantly, and your decisions affect everybody, right? Just in real life, in normal, ordinary life, you can go your separate merry ways, and sometimes you can on vacation, but sometimes what you do directly affects other people. So we have quite a story, I think, of a time where Sophia did it with outstanding grace and
thank you.
What else was it? Was just it was done with surgical precision, I said this morning, but also with class and grace and excellence in every way, and we are here to tell you the story of that, beginning in Oslo, where we left off. Actually, I think that was where we
last started recording.
So let us set the scene. It is our last day in Oslo, Norway, and the day before we leave, and our plans change a little bit, and we end up kind of moving some stuff around, and the things we're going to do all at once, I decide, and it was me, Vivian, decided this for us. We were going to go to Akershus Fortress, we were going to walk east and continue going and go to Egerberg Park and Sculpture Park.
Very excellent.
I practiced this.
Very excellent.
Thank you. It's good etiquette to, and I'm saying that I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I tried. I got the name. Akershus Fortress is correct. But how it worked out was that all of these things, we were walking from along the waterway, and we were just going east. And it was like, I was like, we'll go to the fortress, we'll walk along the water, we'll walk to the sculpture park. It has sculptures, that's what we'll do for our day. We've got lots of time. And it was not as simple as we thought. Well, first because the fortress we thought we would just access from the water, and you can't because it is a fortress. You cannot one does not simply walk up into a fortress. It's a little further from the water, and then we had to kind of come back down, and then we had to walk east. Jump in if anything is...
No, that's about it. That's what I remember. In fact, you're remembering this better than I am. Mostly I was just following you. You were doing a great job.
Very great time. And, the fortress was bigger than we expected. It was lovely. It was kind of uphill, downhill climbs.
Helicopters
beautiful.
That were landing.
There were helicopters that were landing, so they had to ask us to leave very politely. The official helicopters were leaving. So maybe we, detoured a little more than we expected.
Oh, but there's the castle that we saw.
Yeah, that's the fortress.
It
was called, I think it's sometimes called Castle Fortress. It was quite large, and some of the surrounding buildings have been preserved, and there was more to walk around. It was lovely. But we're heading east, and we're going, it's nice weather, but I go, I'm getting a little bit of a blister on the bottom of one foot. In these shoes that are very comfortable, very, but it was just, I was wearing thinner socks. I had not tested them. We're walking quite a lot, quite far. The previous day, we had gone hiking in Frognoscateren for many more hours than we anticipated. We were caught in the rain. We were walking. We were booking it. We were going up and down. We are soft city people. Soft city people. And we're walking to the sculpture park. And I'm distantly remembering that all the guides said, take the tram. Take the tram east. But I had looked at it and I was like, it's not that far. It's walkable. We thought we would look at the water, which we did a little bit. It was a nice walk. And it was straight. It was a straight line. And we're looking around. It's getting a little hard to see where we're going. And we're looking for the sculpture park. And I go, we're really close. And we're looking around in this area. It's a little more industrial. And ahead of us is just this cliff. There's a troll statue in an intersection and this cliff. And I look at it and I started thinking, oh, no. Is this the sculpture park? Anticipating, and I think you hadn't looked it up, Sophia. But
I hadn't looked it up, and also, while Vivian is talking, her no is happening inside her head.
In my head.
On her
in my
outside,
posture.
In her outside, she was projecting much calm.
Well, I was looking at the map. I was looking up, looking down at the map, being like, can this be it? This seems to be it. Inwardly beginning to have some misgivings. But I go, we must go. And we walk close and we find it. This is the sculpture park. And it was not a flat, when you hear the word park, what comes to your mind?
A grassy, flat area, if you walk around.
A walk in the park.
There's a walk in the park. It's easy. It's supposed to be easy.
Easy, flat, all ages.
It's supposed to be restful.
Restful.
Restorative.
Restorative, flat park.
With children. Always imagining children running around.
Elderly people, park.
Park.
And we approach this cliff face, and we look at it, and I think we're getting kind of excited because we found it, and there's two things that excite us. First, there's a map of this vast sculpture park, which is seriously under, what's the word? Under publicized. It's we were always saying Norway was far too humble with their attractions and tourist promotions because when you get there, it's a vast map. There's so many sculptures, well over 50.
I think
50 or something.
50.
Yeah. Works by Dali, Ronin, Marina Abramović. We got so excited because we really love Marina Abramović. We didn't know she had a sculpture here. Jenny Holzer, we didn't make it to, but just who else was there? You were it was wonderful.
It was wonderful. I think that was about it. Those were the
ones we didn't recognize, but just lots of wonderful sculptures. The park looked beautiful, but we saw the vastness of it, and we started to, I think it was the sign where we had the first panic. We looked at the sign, and did we start screaming a little yet?
I don't think there's any screaming involved, but I remember I took a picture of the names of all these sculptures, because there was, they had a list with the names, had numbers, and it was a shiny glass case or something behind which those, behind which the poster was.
The map, yep.
And I was taking a picture of Vivian, because I've been taking lots of pictures, and there is a picture of Vivian reflecting from that case, and she just looks absolutely terrified. Horrified. Because
it was so beautiful, and we wanted to see the whole park, and it was and so we go, all right. I mean, I know we strategized. We broke a little bit at the map part. We looked at it, we started screaming a little, and I think you said maybe let's go to this near the restaurant, the cafe. There's the most sculptures. But we also looked at the map and we said, look, the Marina Abramovich is quite close to the entrance. Like, let's go to the Marina Abramovich, double back to the cafe, and then see most of the sculptures. And my, like, blister's hurting. We're like, okay, but I think we can do this. I think we can do this. So we start climbing, and we see these signs along the way that just call it the Mesolithic climb. It was not a park, listeners. It was not what the rest of the world calls a park. It was a sharp uphill. It was hiking, basically. It was just like what we'd done the previous day. You know, in the wilderness area. Fragnicitarian is called a wilderness area of Oslo. Is quite a lot for us. Actually, it was 2 days ago. We'd taken the train. So, yeah, blister had recovered slightly, but not a whole lot. And it was actually a little bit worse, I think. And we start trudging uphill. And we're struggling a little bit, but we're like, we must get to Marina Abramovich. And you're starting to panic a little. We pass this little bench, and you're like, we could sit down on the bench. And I go, no, we must get to Marina Abramovich. And I knew that if we stopped, like, we wouldn't really get back up again. And so we're tracking. It's actually really not that far. It is sheer uphill. Very steep. You know, like handrail steep, right? We weren't holding it, but there were handrails. Other people were like hiking with the 2 sticks, you know, like it was a hike. But we made it to Marina Abramovich, and we like start reading the plaque. We're so thrilled. We collapse. And then I think you're telling us to eat. The first thing we did was eat.
I think that this happened when we were looking at the map and having our sort of mini breakdown.
Little crisis.
And then we said, you know what we'll do is we'll go to Marina Abramovich. This was our strategy. We will go there. We will sit down and we will have nibbles. And we will have nibbles and we will rest for 20 minutes.
Yeah, you kept saying, I think, at the time we said, if we have a good sit, I think we can do the whole park.
Yeah, I was pretty convinced.
Because we're quite strong. We can do it normally, under normal circumstances. We could have done it.
And at that point, Vivian had not told me about her blister. Maybe she had
mentioned it. I hadn't really told you that.
She had not told me
that she had the extent of it.
If she had told me, things would have been a little bit different, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So once you really knew about it, once you really knew about it, you started worrying more about it.
Which she knew. Which
I think I knew. So we collapse at Marina Abramovich. There's like a nice big platform. We sit down, we eat a lot, and we realize that this whole trip we've been confused because there's so much daylight. It is, okay, we thought it was summer. We think it's maybe not summer. We could not believe that it couldn't, what it couldn't be but summer in June, but it's not summer. Technically, we're still in the spring. At least that's what the internet said. Yeah, until June 20, we're in the spring. So we're in the springtime in Scandinavia. The daylight is crazy in an amazing way. It never gets, barely begins to get dark by midnight or something. And all this daylight is throwing off our body clocks. And on the Fjord cruise in Oslo, and we heard about the Scandinavian exception. This was when I realized it's not just us by any means. The Scandinavian exception, there were these English monks who came to Norway and set up a monastery. They were very wealthy, but they were a very strict order that... what was it like? They prayed all day and they slept all night. It's like the lumberjack sketch from Monty Python. I think it was dusk to damping, right? Like you had to. They had to be up as soon as the sun was up,
right? And sleep when the sun went down.
Only sleep when the sun went down, or something. Which it doesn't sound that strict actually when we say it, but maybe they had to get up a lot for prayers at night or something. I don't know. It had to do with the strictness. But the problem was when they got here, the poor monks, were awake all summer and asleep all winter because the daylight is forever in the summer and non-existent in the winter. And these poor monks had to write to the Pope in Rome to grant them an exception to the rules of their order, and the Pope granted it, and it was known as the Scandinavian exception. So from time immemorial, this daylight thing has been real, and it's thrown us off. We don't know, and I'm usually very good at this. I think you're okay with this, too. Normally,
yeah.
But we know, when to sleep, when to eat, when to wake up, and the problem is you don't feel time passing. Like, I think at the sculpture park, it may even have been, 4 or 5 p.m. or something. It was late in the evening. It was the time when any other day you would be, calling it. You're getting ready to go to dinner, and we fully thought we could continue...
Maybe even do the rest of the park after our sit.
The whole park. Good sit. And do the rest of the park. And so we sit there, we start eating our nibbles, we have some kind of pastries, and we feel a little bit better, and we realize we haven't eaten in a long time. Long time.
We had only had breakfast, I think.
Was that the day we only had bread?
I think that was the day we only had bread. We had one cardamom bun.
We had a small breakfast that day. That was the train day.
That was the train day.
But we didn't eat a lot that day compared to other days, and our bodies were confused. Yeah. So we sat at Marina Abramovich, and let's take a moment to share about the Marina Abramovich, because it was very wonderful. It was this performance art. She's a performance artist. A sculpture. It was like in the shape of a frame, and it was at the site believed to be where Edvard Munch, whose name we were saying incorrectly all trip, was sort of taking a view of the city during this dramatic, blood-red sunset, and this existential terror overcame him, and he felt like something like he felt the scream pass through his body, something like that. He felt the scream, almost, and that's when he painted the scream. Surprise, surprise, in case you were wondering, in suspense. And what Marina Abramovich had done was she set up this frame, and she encouraged you to look out over the city and, like, feel it in your body and let out a scream. And so we sat there having our nibbles, watching what other people did, and no one did that. Some women, like, took a, like, cutesy self, like, they put their face in and looked smiley. No one screamed.
Nobody screamed.
But we said, all right, we must scream because Marina Abramovich. But we were like we didn't want to scream too loud because we thought it might alarm people who thought women were in trouble. Yeah. So we kind of went and made like, but we made very screamy faces. And then we thought, all right, we must continue. And have to say, it was such a wonderful, we went downhill to the restaurant area. I think we took maybe one of the steepest climbs. Like, I think you could keep going. But towards the rest area, it was much milder. Broad, wide, flat path. Not totally flat, but more park-like. Yeah. And we did really enjoy the sculptures we saw there, and we took the tram back. And that was when I was like, now I understand why people say to take the tram. But that is the story of the blister. So, fast forward, 2 days later, we are in Stockholm, Sweden, and it's our first full city day in Sweden, and we're very excited to do, like, city things. And we go, all right, we're going to go to Södermalm, which is, like, one of the districts you read about that has, like, great food, very hip, and we're excited to go there. And I go, all right, we'll take the bus. And I don't know how much we need to get into this, but we take the wrong bus, but we get on another bus, we fix it, and we're walking around, and you're so good, you're asking me, like, is your foot okay, is your foot okay? Oh, I start the day by, sorry, we're going backwards, the blister's kind of bad in the morning. I think I must do something with it. I, like, Google endlessly.
The previous night,
The previous night and the morning of, and no one really has a good remedy for a blister, which is, I was telling you, it's so funny because people online have all kinds of remedies for everything. And there's nothing for blister. It's like, don't put weight on it. Like, do not worsen it. Some were even like ice it, but not in a very convincing way. I was not convinced icing it did very much. Some people say to, like, pop it and drain it, but some people don't because you would get infected. That's the last thing you want, to infect the bottom of your foot. It's kind of gross, sorry. Yeah. And finally, the best thing I can find is they say, like, if you can find, I don't even know, maybe they sell this, but if you can get, like, a little donut-shaped thing, you put it around the blister, and then you wrap it up and you pat it. And what that does is it distributes the weight, so you're not pressing right on the blister like a button, basically. And so I, who had seen a first aid sign in the lobby of our well-prepared Swedish hotel, say, all right, I'm going to go see what they have in the first aid kit. And the woman is so helpful. The receptionist is so helpful, but so apologetic because she's like, we're cleaned out. Like, we've given away so many of these Band-Aids and plasters to all these hiker people and people you surely need. Yeah. It's a very cobblestone-y area where we are, which we obliviously arrived bumping our suitcases, dragging them along. People were staring at us. We were making so much noise dragging our bags because I didn't know how cobblestone it was. But anyway, they don't have very much in the first aid kit except for something called 4-in-1, which the woman goes like, 4-in-1, and she hands it to me and she goes, maybe you can do, And so we wrap up the foot. It actually works very well. We cut a hole. We approximate the thing that the internet said to do. And we're on our merry way through Södermalm. Where shall we pick up? We're walking, and I have this idea that we're going to walk back. That's what I was like. My great concession is we're going to take a bus,
yes.
which we did, into the district, and then we'll walk back and we'll, like, look at the water. We'll cross a bridge back to Gamla stan. and it'll be like a pretty walk, like you see in the photos. Yeah. And so we're very delicately walking along the waterfront, and we think like, okay, we'll sit on a bench. We'll sit on a bench for a while, look at the water, rest, have a good sit, and continue. It's not that far. It's like maybe 20 minutes or something. I think we can do it.
Not too far.
On any other day, we would not bat an eye at a 20-minute walk along the waterfront. So we're walking, and I'm determined. This is my plan.
Yes.
I'm determined we're going to do this. And I think you're maybe already beginning to suggest calling an Uber or something.
I think maybe faintly suggesting it once because I had seen that you were limping a little bit.
I was limping more and more. It wasn't hurting. It was hurting a little, but it was more just like limping to try not to make it worse because we had other plans for Stockholm. And we're like, okay, waterfront, we'll find a bench. So we emerge, and the first benches are just, there's no view. They're like down on the ground. There may be like boats in front of them. You can't see anything. It's like, this would be a sad bench to sit on. But we're confident. Yeah. We'll keep going. So we're walking and we're walking. I'm like limping worse and worse, I think. I'm getting very grim and quiet.
You're walking grim and quiet.
Grim and quiet, and we finally see some benches up ahead. And I think I say like, something's wrong. What's wrong with this bench? Like the most open one is like under a tree. It looks like infested or haunted. Something is wrong with it. I think I told you, like, it's like in a video game when there's like normal bench icons and then there's like something wrong, decrepit zombie bench, like possessed. Yeah. Something is wrong. Something is like it just looks from far away. Something is wrong, and we're like limping towards it slowly. And we've been seeing these like little caterpillars and like tree fluff. It's probably late spring, and we get to this bench, the stone bench with a very nice view, and it is like hung with these like cobwebs. But now that I think about it, why were caterpillars making these cobweb things?
Is it was like larva? Like, I don't know.
Ooh,
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Maybe they weren't caterpillars.
But it was larva of some sort because they're all coming out of it.
They were coming out of it?
Dripping. Yeah.
No, there was like it looked like just like cobwebs dripping. It was covered in, like the bench was literally crawling with these like black and white spotted caterpillars, like writhing, crawling, like, you know, like maggots in food or something. Just utterly, we look at it,
utterly abject,
make a sound, and just like shriek, and we go, we can't sit on this haunted bench, infested bench. So we speed up a little bit. We're walking a little bit faster, and I think next we see the bench that's a decent candidate. It's like, it's a little further down, and we're like, okay, I think we can brush off some bugs. So we go up to it. There's not as many bugs. It's not dripping in, like, larva, silk, whatever. And I, like, dig in my pocket. I have some kind of crumpled receipt, so I start, like, swatting. And these bugs have these weird, like, little sticky feet. Like, I was trying really hard to, like, move them, and their little sticky feet, these little sticky feet were sticking. So I was, like, having to roll them off little by little. And you found, like, a stick.
I found a stick, and same thing, sticky feet.
Sticky feet, and, like, and I was trying to be like, you know, okay, there's a lot, but there's not, if we can clear off the seat, we'll just sit for a while, we won't lean back on the bench, and then at some point you just, like, let out a shriek. Actually, how scared of bugs are you?
Not much at all. However, what I had noticed is that there were actually, what looked like a bench with no caterpillars, actually had a lot of caterpillars lining the edge, the underside. You wouldn't have been able to see it.
Yeah, like in the slats, kind of like.
Yes, in the slats. And then the moment you focused, they were all starting to creep out. Yeah.
They were they weren't just lying there. They were all crawling, inching along. I'm not so good with bugs. There were so many of them.
You were valiant, though. You were like, you had your crumpled paper and you were going.
Because I had my plan. We would sit on a bench. I did not want to give up. And so we go, okay, we can't sit on this bench. Let's keep going. And we're going to get the order a little jumbled, but it's like we're walking along. You're almost going like, I think you're trying to get us to board a boat.
I think so. They were starting to look quite nice after those infested benches.
Yeah.
And some of them had good reviews that I had read about. Some of them I'd encountered like in, you know, Reddit lists and what to do.
So some of them are maybe like restaurant boats or like bar boats or something. And like they look too touristy for me. And you were so sweet. You're like, how about we get on this one? It looks so nice. We saw a boat that had come from Stavanger. It said Stavanger. We were like, oh, Stavanger boat. And you were trying so hard to, and it looked like a privately booked boat, and you were
Yeah.
trying so good to get us to board the boat. You were like, let's go up the boat, let's go up the boat. And I should add, I get seasick also, among other things. So I didn't want to board the boat. And I was like, no, we're going to walk, we're going to find a bench, we're going to board a boat.
Know. I know that, but the reason I still suggested it, I just want you to know this, is because you were so impressed with how stable our boat was in our last boat
in
cruise
Oslo
situation.
Oslo Fjord boat was the calmest water
and
I've ever
that was the
been
dream.
on.
I was like, maybe all the boats here are like this. I would not have suggested it otherwise.
So it was so fun. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And they did, these are like moored boats. Like if people who are not me would be fine on these boats, But I would not want to board. So I think I said quite sharply, like, no boat. No, I'm not getting on a boat. Not angry, but just firm. Yeah, not getting on a boat. And it was to the point where you even how about we just sit right here? Like along the edge, this paved edge, why don't we just sit? And I was like, what do we fall into the water? There's nothing. It's just the edge, this raw edge of the road right above the water. And I said, no. And then this is the part that really breaks us. This is the moment. So we're walking along, and we're walking quite slowly because I cannot go too fast with this blister. And we're looking at boats, and we begin to pass the creepiest boat. You've gone silent and a little pale. You've got a little ashen.
I mean, because with the memory of it, you'll explain.
All right, so this is what happens. The creepiest boat. It's like this big. It looks kind of like a party boat to me. I don't really think this boat. Maybe at the most it's going a little bit out. It's mostly
like a
parked there.
Boat. It looked
bar boat, party bar boat,
or something. Yeah,
very touristy party. And I should add that there's so many boats parked along that we're not having a great view.
No,
which I didn't realize.
They're all almost
there's
back to back.
There's no view of the opposite shore because these boats are just blocking the way. And this boat, so the first thing you see, I can't remember which ones it was. I think first I looked up and it looks like this man is being hanged. That's the first one I saw. Is that the first one you saw?
I think so. I think there were a couple of men being hanged, so I'm not sure which one.
A couple?
There's 3 in total.
Okay, so this is what the 3 were. The first one, it looked like a man was being hanged. And what it was is this sort of mannequin, pirate-looking mannequin. And he's boarding the boat. But they've definitely hanged. I know that hanging is for, I'm going to use hanging deliberately because hanged is for when you kill people by hanging. And they've hanged him in such a way that it looks like he's being hanged.
And he was, I think it was true to size, true to scale. So I think it was
It was quite a good realistic, true to size, and posed in a way that truly, the way with mannequin, it's convincing because the body seems right. So we're looking at this man that's hanged, and then you look down and more at eye level, and there's 2 more of these creepy men, pirates, dressed like party pirates, but in a very terrifying way. They have these knives in their hands, maybe between their teeth, and they are boarding the boat in the way that, what do they call it in pirate movies when they're boarding a boat?
I'm not sure.
in a very hostile way. This is when they take over a safe, friendly boat. They're boarding it. You're being boarded. I think that's what it's called.
Being boarded. Okay.
And there are these terrifying pirate men boarding the boat. And then there were 2 more real men standing along the shore, and one of them was definitely hosing the boat down in the way that you clean it with the pressure hose. I can't remember what the other man was doing.
I don't know. I don't remember.
But they both looked very scary. They're tall men. One of them, the guy who was hosing the boat, had long orange dreads and neck tattoos. And looking back, they could have been quite fine gentlemen.
Yeah.
There was nothing really, they weren't doing anything at all.
They were doing nothing. They just
scary.
Nothing scary. But
they were part of the scene with the terrifying pirate men boarding this boat. And we recollected this in tranquility, and we had been saying all trip, this is so nice. In America, if you went to a bar, they don't refill your water. They don't, come up to you and serve you. They don't explain, we've been treated so well here in every way. But we came to the conclusion that in America, there would never be a terrifying boat like this anywhere. Right?
No. It's simply, yes, we would never see that. That was a line that would not be crossed.
Yeah, never. Not even in a Halloween park or something would there be this particular terrifying, these lifelike pirates boarding the ship, and then these 2 perhaps innocent men, sorry, they were, but they were standing there in a seemingly menacing way.
They're very tall.
Very tall, large, scary men. And what really did it was that we couldn't walk faster.
Yeah.
I think I had this real primal fight or flight, and I'm always flight, like instinct activated, and we could do nothing but walk past it at our slow.
We had to amble past
it slowly. And I remember we were just going like, creepy boat, creepy boat, creepy boat. We weren't screaming out loud. And, this is broad daylight. This was the last thing we expected. Very normal people, like joggers, men with briefcases, like women on bicycles, like totally normal scene. That was what really did it for us. It was broad daylight and this terrifying boat where we least expected to see a boat. And we thought about it later. So it reminded me that you could get murdered by scary men. And it made you think of death.
It just
death itself.
Yeah, the death itself, and also like decaying, because the men that were those mannequin men, they were sort of this like greenish color. Like they look like they'd already started decomposing and had been there for a while.
Even as they were boarding
the boat, they looked like they were the undead, like some sort of zombie creature.
But in a really scary way. Not like American zombie pirate, fun, fun, whatever. But they really looked disturbing.
They looked disturbing.
And we're walking past, we're going, creepy boat, creepy boat. And this is when you begin to lose hope.
Oh yes,
you lost hope.
Yeah, we're never going to find a bench. All the benches are decrepit.
There's no benches. We're never going to find a bench in this part in Sodermalm. And we looked, at one point we had a lovely view of, I'm not sure which part, but there were these lovely benches across the water.
At the other side of
the other side. There were people sitting on these sloping steps by a very nice, respectable building of some kind. You were looking with such longing. And you started to say, we're not going to find a bench. We're never going to find a bench. You looked like we were not going to find a bench in all of Stockholm.
And that is what I believed in that moment.
You went to resignation. You were just, we're never going to find a bench. And I think you started being like, let's call an Uber. I think maybe that's the point where you began.
Maybe we should,
maybe we should call an Uber. And I went, no, we're going to find a bench. I know we're going to find a bench. It's not a far work. We're going to find a bench. We keep going. And we did. So what we saw first off were these floating wooden platforms. That sounds so funny to describe, but they were these wooden platforms of nice pale Scandinavian wood. And they had these sort of square holes cut in them in which plants were growing.
Yeah. Like raised beds almost.
Yeah, almost like little flower beds, but sort of wild looking green.
Yeah.
And there was teenagers sitting, lying down. Everything was fine, and we were we're being rewarded. Our faith is rewarded. We're going so close. So we're we've been picking up speed. We're we're gonna sit on this floating thing. We're gonna eat something. We're gonna feel better.
Have more nibbles.
More nibbles. More nibbles. And there was a charming sign in Swedish that you read. It was something like, this is a government initiative.
It was a project. Yeah.
To test it out, a public initiative to see if you could sit on these platforms, to relax, to fish, to
look at the view, to enjoy the view,
to enjoy the view. And I go, I think this will be okay. And then we delicately sit on the platform. We sit on a bench. We let out a sigh, and I go, I can't. This is making me seasick instantly. And you knew, it was making me sick. As soon as
we sat down, it was
moving just enough that a seasick person. And so we had to get up. Luckily, right behind us there were benches, and we sat on this bench, and we began eating our nibbles and collecting ourselves. And this was when you had your triumphant moment, Sophia, of overriding a friend's decision, because I was determined that we were going to sit for a while and then make our way back to our hotel, which, maybe still a 20-minute walk at this point, actually.
20-minute point.
I may have hoodwinked you. It was not so close. Oh, I remember when it was, I said, you know what? I broke a lot. I said, we'll get a bus. I'm sure we can get a bus. And I'm laughing at it, but I pull up Google Maps, and I put in public transport, and I go, haha, it's so lost. It's showing us a 21-minute walk, and when I go to public transport, it says walk. It says walk 21 minutes. It gives the exact same route. It does not know how to connect us to public transport. And I'm like, you know what? If we walk back the way we came to the street we were on, we can take the bus. We pass these buses. I know we can join up buses, but we have to walk back a certain distance. And it's kind of slopey. It's not, it's a non-trivial walk back. And this is when you work your magic. Tell us about your thought process as you watch this unfolding.
Well, so I have many experiences with what I think, are they called dead zones? They're some sort of public transport zone where somehow it is difficult to find a direct way to get from point A to point B using public transport.
Even though you're not in a remote area.
Yeah. Even if, and typically, actually, it's in the precise opposite of a remote area. So when you're somewhere so somewhere so frequented that there is, because the other dead zone I know of is smack in the middle of downtown in the city I live, right? Yeah.
Which part?
So Carytown. So right by Dandy Dancer, there is a dead zone between.
Nothing.
You can do stuff, but the amount of time it takes to get a thing will take you
equivalent walking.
Yeah. So I had already known that this is a thing that can happen, especially in an area where you most likely think it won't happen. Because I knew about dead zones. Two, I realized at this point. This is the point I realized that Vivian actually couldn't walk. She was being very valiant. She was saying, "Oh no, we can still do it. We'll do it." But I was noticing that she was working so hard to find an alternative that simply meant that she was not able to walk. If she would not have been working this hard for an alternative if she couldn't walk. And at that point, it became quite simple in my mind, which was, okay, she cannot walk. Public transport is not happening. We must use an Uber. How do I get her to use an Uber? What are the chief arguments I can use? And then I thought, okay, well, if we take public transport, even though it was not an option, it would cost us roughly 80, I guess, what's the name of the currency?
Kroner, yeah.
80 kroner. It would be about 80 kroner. So then I didn't even ask her at this point. I just looked it up on my Uber app, and it was about 150 kroner if we were to take an Uber. And I tell her, hey, Vivian, I think we can take an Uber. It'll be 150. If we were to take the public transport, forget all the walking, it would end up being very similar in cost. And, Vivian looked at me like, do you not know that we do not do Ubers? You are not a plebeian. We don't do Ubers. Ubers are not, no.
And you didn't know this about me, but I was so determined not to be like tourist girl who can't navigate a new city and must take a taxi back to the hotel, right? And all over the place, which we really had not done up to this point. And we knew where we were. We knew how to get back. But that was my specific resistance. And then my Uber resistance comes later. But at that time, I was so determined. So you look up the price. That's your first argument.
Look up the price.
And it's a good argument. The price is still a little steep. It's double. So it's not really working on me.
Yeah. Well, not really working. And then I think, okay, Vivian is very, very thoughtful about when I need something, whenever in the trip I've been a little bit tired, she's been able to sort of pick up on that and, arrange things accordingly. And I, so far in the trip, hadn't at any point, told her that I couldn't go on or that I needed to take a break.
Because you've been a phenomenal walker.
Thank you.
You did all the same walking me in knee-high leather boots, right? Everything you've done. Like Timberland, rugged walking boots. But we have really I've been very impressed with our walking stamina.
I'm very impressed too. And, I thought,
we walked for 10 hours some days, I must say,
straight,
really.
Yeah.
And not walk in the park. No.
Mesolithic climbs.
Hiking, climbing.
We've done much.
Yes. So we've been very good. So, and you have not once said object, I can't go on or something.
Yeah. And so, I knew that I could make a joke about this because if I was the kind of person that couldn't go on and I had said that, then it would have really concerned you. But I knew I could joke about this because I knew that it wasn't really an issue. So I was like, you know what? Vivian, imagine that it's just not, forget your blister. Imagine your poor friend Sophia is in the city and she can't go on. What would you do?
And you started doing it in first person. You were like, oh, I can't. Oh, my feet. Oh, I'm so tired. Can we go back to the hotel?
Yeah, imagine. Yeah, she, and Vivian could see, of course, right through it. And, she knew also, she just saw right through it. Did not entertain that play acting.
It was getting to me a little bit, but it was getting to me. It was breaking me down. You were really noticing.
I could sort of tell that but still wasn't really working.
Yeah. So
I know that sometimes with Uber, when you reload the app, it'll change the pricing again because the surge pricing is based on the timing, right? And so it'll usually it has some algorithm. I think at the hour it's pretty expensive. I think 10 minutes past is fine.
Okay.
So at the hour, at the 30-minute mark, it's usually quite expensive, and then it goes back down again. So I refreshed again, and this time it was 110 or 100
something
kroner.
like that.
So it was less. And so then I presented to her again, and I was like, hey, now it's less. Let's do this. And I think at that point I may have sort of combined all the arguments. Like, you're so tired. It's a dead zone.
Yeah.
I've used Uber so many times. I've been using it for, 7 times a week.
Yeah. You started getting quite stern at this point.
At this point, I'm starting to amp it up.
We're taking an Uber. I don't know, did you say it that way?
Like, let's take an Uber. I think let's take this Uber. Like, this is the same price. Almost the same price.
Yeah.
And like, we're really fixating on the price here. I'm like,
and the price did it I think of all the reasons. I think when the price went down, that helped a lot. And I was like, and it activated that thing when I was like, we must snatch it up before the price goes up again.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
So
I was like, okay. And so you like immediately hit the button, and we start calling the Uber, and we're watching it come over. It's great. We're sitting there. I'm getting so anxious about it because, so the first reason is that there's no Uber in Singapore. There's a similar service called Grab, and as I was explaining to you, they can cancel on you a lot. They can see your route, and I think they're often waiting for one where they can earn more money or go somewhere where they want to be going. And so a lot of the times you'll get a driver cancel while you're waiting for it. And so it sort of activates kind of like, and maybe not anymore, but previously Uber, if you missed your Uber, if they waited for you and you missed it, you got charged.
It would have to be like 5 minutes or something.
It used to be less. One time I missed an Uber. I was so mad. It drove past. It charged me extra. It just, And so I kept being like, should we stand up? Should we walk to the Uber? And you're like, no. It's coming to us. We don't do anything. It comes to us.
We wait.
We wait. And we sit there. I'm like almost on the brink of tears. I don't know. I was like really beginning to have a moment. And I was like, the reality of like, we're taking an Uber. Fine. And... that's fine, right? The Uber shows up. It's a very nice car.
Nice car.
And as soon as we get in, I can see that I think at first it says Uber on the outside, and then when you go inside, the driver's like taxi license is on the dashboard, so I know it was very legitimate, very fine. We get in, we close the doors, and the man asks for your name, and so we know it's the right one. And then I think he's maybe begun driving.
At this point, he's driving, yeah.
He's driving, he goes, "Where are you going?"
And, and so what Vivian doesn't know, since Singapore doesn't have Uber, is that Uber doesn't give the drivers the exact location. So it'll... Anymore. I think it used to, right? So, yeah, so drivers are basically following a map to which they do not know the endpoint. And so I knew this. And so, I tell the guy, where we're going here.
I'm freaking out. You feel like all this tension in my body. Freaking out. Like he's going to drive us somewhere and like kill us or something. I mean, not kill it, but like it was like, you get in this car, you act like, anyway, this is fine. You calm me down. I think you explain this whole thing very gently.
The whole thing.
The car's driving. Everything's fine. It goes right back along the road we were on and begins slowly driving us nicely to our destination. I'm already feeling like this was a good idea. This was, instead of all this walking that we were going to do. And it wasn't that pretty. Like, it was just walking. We didn't need to do this walk.
Yeah.
And it's driving us back. It's very comfortable. And I think this is when I start, like, tearing up a little. Because I think maybe we were reminiscing about the creepy boat.
We were laughing.
We started laughing a little bit. We start laughing, and, like, I'm like, beginning to, like, tears are, like, forming in my eyes. I don't know what's happening. And I think that's when we get back to the hotel and we have just like I like just like cry a little bit, and we're just like, that was the creepiest boat. And I remember telling you as we get into the hotel, I'm like, it's like when a child sees something that scares them, like a dog or like a scary door, or like a scary bag, like all these things that can quite scare a child that may or may not be intrinsically scary, but a child who just starts crying, and it's because the child can't get away from it, and they can't fight or flight. No. You just have this reaction. They're trapped, and I just start like crying a little bit as I remember this creepiest boat we've ever seen. In broad daylight. And so we like have a little moment, and then we gather ourselves, and I think I say like, we're so happy to be back in our safe hotel, and I go, let's sit by the water because we're back and it's so pretty. This is a prettier part.
Much prettier part.
We'll find a bench. Do you get a drink? I get a cup of tea from the hotel. Do you get something? You get a nice hot cup of tea.
I don't think I have a cup of tea with me.
Which, cools instantly as we walk out, but we sit on this bench. We're looking for the story of looking for benches.
It continues.
It continues, and we find there are two benches near to each other, they're kind of like a tour. They can sit more people, but people are already sitting on them. There's an older man eating his ice cream with such happiness. He gets there a little before us. He takes the bench. He's very happily eating his ice cream in a cone. And then the other one has a regular man. Another man. So we sit at opposite benches looking at each other, and we begin to go like, oh, like, the blister. I think it was the blister. And you understand that, like, I hate looking kind of like weak tourist person, but I'm like, it's because of the blister that kind of kicked us like 50%. And then everything that happened at the infested bench, the creepy boat, it just pushed us to this like little, and I think I'm like tearing up. And the nice man whose bench I'm sitting on, he just gets up. And I go like, oh, come here, Sophia, the bench. And you sit next to me, and we're like reminiscing, and we just see this man like wander off a little bit, but he has nowhere to go. He did not, he just got up because he heard that we were having such a day.
And understood English because everybody here knows English.
Okay. And maybe he was also a tourist. We don't know.
Could be. Who knows?
We don't expect this. He does it so graciously. He doesn't even nod or he just does it subtly. So subtly that at first we were convinced that he was just getting up.
He just needed to leave.
He just needed to leave, but he's just sort of like standing around. He stood around for a while, and then he left, I guess. But it was so kind of him. And we kind of, over here and then over dinner, which we'll begin to tell you, but we we'll debrief the whole like friend overriding a decision thing, but we must tell the story of how our day ended, because it was just the greatest. So we had our little, how would you describe how, were we frightened? You kept saying like we were afeared.
We were afeared. I think we were just scared.
We were because you were scared of, we were thinking about death. After we were so brave in our last episode being like, remember that you must die. But that's very different from, like, I think remember that you must die is like a sobering remembering, right? You activate your decision planning brain. You soberly think, my time is limited. I must live my life well. I must use my time to the maximum. Yeah. And that is different from alligator brain being like, you could die. Ooh, you could die here. You could get killed. You're killed by pirate men. You could get killed by dreadlocked men. And this is a bigger city than we've been in, and it's just like we had come from like these idyllic woods.
And we were tired.
We were quite tired. We didn't know how tired.
We hadn't eaten. That's the other thing. We actually hadn't eaten.
We hadn't eaten, and we were in quite a little shock. And so we sat on the bench. I like wept a little bit. I like held my tea. We drank it. We calmed down. We were getting quite cold because it's quite brisk and cold by the water. And I think we go like, all right. We'll collect ourselves and go to dinner. Was there one more thing?
We said we'd go back to the hotel. We went back to the hotel.
Was there something a little silly that we did? I can't remember what. It's fine. Well, I'll come back to it if we do. But we go back, we like take a nice hot shower, we like calm ourselves, and we decide we're gonna go to like nice, comforting Swedish dinner. There are many good restaurants, and you look them up. So if you take over the driver's seat at this point, you're like, I will look for dinner. I will find us dinner. We split this trip so well, I think, but you were so good at finding meals. But you were really steering us. You were like, we will eat dinner. We will calm ourselves. We will stay in Kamenstan, which we like. We feel very safe here.
Very safe here.
They're only safe boats. Only safe boats. And you find us two restaurants within 5 minutes. So I'm limping away. Within 5 minutes of our hotel. And you say, we're going to look at these two. They're both very lovely. We pick one. We walk over, and there's a line out the door into the street, which we have not seen anywhere. Firstly, because Norway is a little... not very populated. Not a lot of tourists. And I think we're before the tourist season because it's not summer. We were silly. We thought it was summer, but it's not. It's before peak season, and there was a line out the door. And it was clear we were not getting in. It's like at least 8 p.m. or something by this point. And we go, okay, we'll go to the other one. And we like plod on very slowly on cobblestones. And it's just as bad.
Same thing.
Yeah. And I think maybe I just like go silent or something. And you're like, I will find us another restaurant. And you start apologizing. I'm like, it's not your fault. We never expected. It's never been like this. It was Saturday night. Maybe that contributed. Who knows? We've never seen this. No. And you go, okay, here's one more restaurant. It's right between them. It has better reviews. And there's no line. I assume it's closed. I'm like, I think it's closed. It's, you have to go in. There was stuff in the window. There was nobody there. It's called, we won't say the name of it, but the name of it does not really sound like a restaurant of food.
It doesn't sound like there'll be dinner.
Doesn't sound like there'll be dinner. It's so quiet looking. And you're like, let's just try it. And I think there's like maybe there was pastry in the window.
There's
like it doesn't look like
Lots
a dinner place. And I'm thinking like, it's fine. We'll just go. How do we do this justice? So you open the door and you have to go like down a little bit. Just a little.
A few steps, yeah.
A few steps. It's lovely. It's quite dark, but in a lovely way. It has this sort of cave-like feel to it.
Yeah, the walls are, they have that texture, you know?
Like the cavernous texture. It's painted white, I think.
Painted white.
It's like very warm, a little stuffy, a little bit.
Candlelit.
Candlelit, and it looks quite lovely. And I think the first thing I see is it's either the person behind the counter or it's the old lady. I forget which one first. Maybe the old lady. There's quite an elderly lady, maybe getting food or something, and she's being helped by the woman of women, as we've named her. What do you call because she's the servant. She was also behind, the cash register at the time. And maybe she was helping the old lady with her bill. She was doing she was really assisting this quite elderly woman in a very lovely way. And we decided she looks kind of like Britney Spears. Maybe in her early 20s. It's like, sweet face. Long blonde hair, wearing an apron over her.
She's wearing an apron.
Wearing an apron, white apron. The kindest face. So she's helping the old lady. We're waiting there. We can tell there's probably food. So we ask, is there a table for two? And she goes, yes. There may be about a half-hour wait for the food. Is that okay? We go, of course. She's so nice. We're already beginning to talk in this nice, loving way. And she leads us deeper into the restaurant to this, it's quite big, actually. There's people are eating and dining, and she leads us into the most back room, the most cavernous back room, where there's a table of two. There's the table we sit at for two, and in the back, you have to picture we're almost like in a barrel or something. This sort of back room, candlelit, warm, cozy back room, and there's these tables pushed together in front of this bookcase, beautiful bookcase, old books. Candles on the tables, and these sweet elderly French people, right? And they're having the meal of their lives. They're so happy. They're obviously they're dining well. There's food, wine. They're so happy. They're so mellow. They're having such a good time. She sits us there, and we just look at each other in disbelief. We can't believe we found this beautiful, amazing restaurant between these two restaurants that have absurd lines. Your eyes are glazing over.
I'm hungry.
Just thinking about it. And she sits us down, and these French people having the loveliest time. She brings the menu. It's lovely. She helps us, decide what we immediately want meatballs and cheese pie. And then we order some drinks, and we sit there, and we're just maybe we're taking pictures. We're in disbelief of how lovely it is. Are you gonna last?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay.
As you get to the food,
it's getting worse and worse because this is their state of mind yesterday. We don't even know how hungry we are because it's bright daylight. It's like noon daylight outside, But we're beginning to. Stockholm has darker places, and this is helping us. Our room is a little dimmer at night. It's dark. In this deep cellar basement, it's dark with candles. So we're beginning to feel how late it is and how hungry we are. She brings the food, right? I think that's kind of the next thing. The food is amazing. It is so, large, comforting food. It's so good. It's so good. We're as happy as the French people behind us who are, in love with our server, the woman of women. Especially the man who's closest to me was, he was, trying to speak English too. What was he saying? Kind of before the vanilla ice cream, but he's, saying thank you, madame.
Yeah.
Oh, he's being gentlemanly, but he's in love with her.
So in love
and
with
she's
her.
being so kind to him. They're having such a wonderful, wonderful time. At some point, they're ordering vanilla ice cream. And they're going vanilla ice cream. And wasn't the man saying so much or something?
Oh,
his arms went out wide, as if demonstrating a large fish. Vanilla ice cream. And she's like, of course. Bring them dessert. They're so happy. We're eating. We're beside ourselves. We're eating. We're in this relaxed, happy state. I've never been so happy and relaxed in a restaurant, I think. This continues. The French people finish and leave. And I think I stand up a little bit to let them move. It's quite tight.
Yeah.
I think the man, like, knocks over my jacket. He, like, hands it back to me so kindly. You know, like, says, like, thank you. And I think he says, like, good night to us. What does he say to us? Like,
bonsoir?
He speaks English to us, I think.
He speaks a little bit of English.
He says something in English to us, like, good night. And I go, bonsoir, which I think is wrong. I think you say, no, I say bon nuit. I say bon nuit. And he's, like, turning to the others. He's like, bon nuit. Like, he's saying, like, she speaks French to us. She told me bon nuit. They're so happy. And as they're leaving, every single one of them says good night to us in some fashion, right? Like,
they look us in the eye and
look
they
us
say
in the
good
eye.
Night. They say
good night, bye-bye, bonsoir. We say the same, that good night, good night. We continue our meal. One French woman comes back in a panic, muttering to herself because she has left her entire backpack at the table, which maybe hasn't even been cleared yet. It's been pretty brief. We're eating. She comes back in such a panic, muttering, you know, she left her whole bag. That was how relaxed she and the group were. She left her entire backpack. Of course, nothing happened to it. We didn't even see it. We were just eating our meal.
Yeah, it was at the corner.
We're having the best time. They're trying to clear our dishes, like, politely, but we're still eating. We're eating, you know, but they keep having, is the food good? Does it taste well? We're like, yes, it is so good. It is so good. And you notice that it's getting kind of late. You're really taking good care of us. Because it closes at 9:30, which is a little bit early. And you go, should we order our dessert and stuff? And I think this is when I got up, actually, to go order our dessert. There's a different woman behind the counter. You know, she's also lovely. She's not as, it's horrible. She's not as lovely as the woman before me, but she's a little more businesslike, which is nothing wrong with it. A little older, more professional. Yeah. Already, if we encountered her alone, it was already so good. You know, I'm telling, you know, the food is so good. She's like, oh, I'll tell the cook. She'll be so happy. It's like this restaurant full of kind women. And after pirate boat of murderous men serving us with sweet women serving us food, and she goes, like, you know, I'm explaining the coffee. She says, of course I can make you a coffee. All over Norway and Sweden, they will make you a coffee till late in the night. Where other places, because we've worked in coffee shops, they close the coffee machine first because it takes a long time to clean the coffee machine. It's a pain, especially, maybe it's not so bad the way they hand make the drip filter coffee. But even then, it's usually you want to lock it because no one wants it so late. She goes, of course I'll make you coffee. She's a little concerned. She goes, she says something, do you want food from the kitchen? I say, just ice cream. She says, I can make that for you. So great. You know, do you want two? And I go, just one. And then the coffee, and then we still have a little alcohol. And we sit back at the table. It is vanilla ice cream with cloudberry jam, which we'd wanted to try. She brings the ice cream. It is like 4 scoops of ice cream at least. It is immense. It is, how could this be a one-person ice cream? It's so big. And we go for it. We eat almost the whole thing. You even take a bite. There's like that chocolate wafer thing. And I cannot do it as I've been drinking more beer. But you take a bite out of it. We eat so much. We eat all of it.
All of it.
We're having the best dinner to erase our horror of murderous pirate men. And as we sally forth, you know, they're so kind. You know, they wanted to wash the dishes, surely, and lock up, but they let us. We take a bunch of pictures. The woman of women takes 6 photos of us. We move the candles because she's blown out some of them. We move to sit at the big table. She takes the pictures. So nice. And as we're leaving, you just tried to walk out.
I think I did. I've been so used to us paying
at the table.
Before.
Okay. And you're like, thank you. And you're like leaving the door. And I go, Sophia, we haven't paid. And the other woman's just laughing. I think they're so used to people coming in and then leaving, like, in the bliss of their lives. So relaxed, so full, so calm, just so comfort, you know, so cozy, so hygge. I don't know if I'm saying quite right. Just, it's something else we had not understood until now. And so we have to settle the bill. There's some confusion about the items on the bill. There's like the wrong beer, and we correct it. And she's like, then it will be right for our records, even though there was no price difference. It was like such a lovely interaction. And we leave and we roll our way back to our hotel. And it was just to debrief the whole thing. I mean, first, the kindness and hospitality that we've been shown on, I don't know, I was getting emotional. It's just that people have been so kind to us on this trip. Like, as a tourist and a traveler, you kind of expect to be treated as such. Yeah. And we have been treated so well everywhere. Maybe because people think we're very young. And the funniest thing, actually, these two women, they knew we were not so young. They did not card us. They knew we were adult women. And they still treated us so well. Not at all condescending, so kind. And looking back on the whole thing, it was the perfect day because you overrode a decision. And it led in that sort of like, what's the word that starts with S? Of like the serendipity of the most wonderful dinner to wash away the horror of horrors. Murder's pirate boat. But as we kind of broke it down and analyzed it a little, like you did everything right. You attacked. You almost like went for like an attacking kind of like you were like, you went for the price difference. You went for the time. My foot was injured, and which I didn't want to admit. And like I would have stubbornly walked back. But I knew there would be consequences, and you were trying it, and you were like, I take Ubers all the time. You reassured me. You walked me through the experience of taking an Uber. You did it without any kind of, like, guilt manipulation or, like, anger. Because in another situation, someone else would have been like, don't be fool, whatever. Like, don't be silly. Like, this is, forget it. The time is bad. We're getting in the Uber. And it wouldn't have been even wrong to do that. That's like people would have done a little bit of like a weapon attack of like anger or guilt or something.
They would have overridden.
They would have overridden, and they would have overridden. And you did it just so well. I have never. It was amazing. You like took charge, but in a kind of consensual way.
Oh, so lovely.
Do you think you would have called the Uber if I had refused?
No.
Yeah. And I knew that.
Because my foot wasn't hurting. To lose. You were sitting there suffering.
You could have done another Mesolithic climb.
I would have just done another Mesolithic climb with you if that made you happy. Yeah.
I told you. I was prepared to like walk back to Oslo to find us a bench. I did not, no part of me wanted to get in an Uber. But you did it, and it was a friend vacation move. It was absolutely the right call. It got us, back to safety and to, we were never in any danger. I have to say. We were really, it was just the scariest.
I just realized right now. What? I think it's because I would have been completely fine with whatever you would have decided that it ended up okay.
Yeah, I trusted you. I knew.
Because there was no coercion, right?
There was no coercion. I wasn't
trying to make you do it. It was like, this is a really good option given our circumstances. Yeah. And if you don't do it, sure.
I really trusted you. And I knew your judgment was right in that moment. You were really, like, going for it. What else? What else was so good about it?
Oh, I don't know. I could keep talking about how lovely I am forever.
It was so expertly done, and usually that's just does not happen on a trip because people are stressed. They need to make a decision. They need to override the other person. It was masterfully done.
Thank you, Vivian.
And that led us to our amazing dinner with the Women of Women,
who I hope we are about to see.
Again,
because I'm
we're going again.
So hungry.
We're going back. And that is some first-rate etiquette, I must say.
Thank you.
We will be back with more stories from our trip. Listeners, we're getting a little faint. It's because we don't know what.
We haven't
it's
eaten
almost 8 p.m., but it's still bright. We haven't eaten.
We need nibbles. We need nibbles.
We need thicca. We need sustenance.
Your lunch was not that big, Vivian.
No, our lunch was big. But it was many hours ago. You can email us your travel stories and your stories of overriding people at noetiquettepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. And until then, it is good etiquette to not make a terrifying pirate boat. But even if you do, your vacation is not spoiled or ruined by any chance if you have a wonderful friend looking out for you and kind, hospitable people.